Hey friends, welcome back for the continuation of chapter 17. As we were reading, we got to the point where Augustus Gloop got sucked up one of the great big glass pipes because he fell into the chocolate river. And now the Oompa Loompas are getting ready to sing a song about Augustus Gloop. Let's listen. Augustus Gloop, chanted the Oompa Loompas. Augustus Gloop, Augustus Gloop, the great big greedy nincompoop. How long could we allow this beast to gorge and guzzle, feed and feast on everything he wanted to? Great Scott, it simply wouldn't do. However long this pig might live, we're positive he'd never give even the smallest bit of fun, of happiness to anyone. So what we do in cases such as this, we use a gentle touch, and carefully we take the brat and turn him into something that will give us great pleasure to us all. A doll, for instance, or a ball, or marbles, or a rocking horse. But this revolting boy, of course, was so unutterly vile, so greedy, foul, and infantile. He left a most disgusting taste inside our mouths, so in his haste we chose a thing that, come what may, would take this nasty taste away. Come on, we cried, the time is ripe to send him shooting up the pipe. He has to go, it has to be, and very soon he's going to see. Inside the room to which he's gone, some funny things are going on. But don't, dear children, be alarmed. Augustus Gloop will not be harmed, although of course we must admit he will be altered quite a bit. He'll be quite changed from what he's been when he goes through the fudge machine. Slowly the wheels go round and round, the cogs begin to grind and pound. 100 knives to slice, 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 we add some sugar, cream, and spice. We'll boil him for a minute more until we're absolutely sure that all the greed and all the gall is boiled away for once and all. And out he comes, and now by grace a miracle has taken place. This boy who only just before was loathed by men from shore to shore, this greedy brute, this louse's ear, is loved by people everywhere. For who could hate or bear a grudge against a luscious bit of fudge? I told you they love singing, cried Mr. Wonka. Aren't they a delight? Aren't they charming? But you mustn't believe a word they have said. It's all nonsense, every bit of it. Are the Oompa Loompas really joking, Grandpa? Asked Charlie. Of course they're joking, answered Grandpa Joe. They must be joking. At least, I hope they're joking, don't you? And that's the end of chapter 17. Let's continue reading chapter 18, called Down the Chocolate River. Off we go, cried Mr. Wonka. Hurry up, everybody. Follow me to the next room, and please don't worry about Augustus Gloop. He's bound to come out in the wash. They always do. We shall have to make the next part of our journey by boat. Here she comes. Look! A steamy mist was rising up now from the great warm chocolate river, and out of the mist there appeared suddenly the most fantastic pink boat. It was a large open rowboat with a tall front and a tall back, like a Viking boat from old, and it was such a sight of shining, sparkling, glistening pink color that the whole thing looked as if it were made of bright pink glass. There were many oars on either side of it, and as the boat came closer, the watchers on the riverbank could see that the oars were being pulled by masses of Oompa Loompas, at least 10 of them each, on each oar. This is my private yacht, cried Mr. Wonka, beaming with pleasure. I made her by hollowing out an enormous boiled sweet. Isn't she beautiful? See how she comes cutting through the river. The gleaming pink boiled sweet boat glided up to the riverbank. 100 Oompa Loompas rested on the oars and stared up at the visitors. Then suddenly, for some reason best known to themselves, they all burst into shrieks of laughter. What's so funny? Asked Violet Beauregard. Oh, don't worry about them, cried Mr. Wonka. They're always laughing. They think everything's a colossal joke. Jump into the boat, all of you. Come on, hurry up. As soon as everyone was in safety, the Oompa Loompas pushed the boat away from the bank and began to row swiftly down the river. Hey there, Mike TV, shouted Mr. Wonka. Please don't lick the boat with your tongue. It'll only make it sticky. Daddy, said Veruca Salt, I want a boat like this. I want you to buy me a big, pink, boiled sweet boat exactly like Mr. Wonka's. And I want lots of Oompa Loompas to row me about. And I want a chocolate river. And I want... She wants a good kick in the pants, whispered Grandpa Joe to Charlie. The old man was sitting in the back of the boat, and little Charlie was right beside him. Charlie was holding tightly onto his grandfather's bony old hand. He was in a whirl of excitement. Everything he had seen so far, the great chocolate river, the waterfall, the huge sucking pipes, the candy meadows, the Oompa Loompas, the beautiful pink boat, and most of all, Mr. Wonka himself, had been so astonishing that he begun to wonder whether this could possibly be any more astonishments left. Where were they going now? What were they going to see? And what in the world was going to happen in the next room? Isn't it marvelous? Said Grandpa Joe, grinning at Charlie. Charlie nodded and smiled up at the old man. Suddenly, Mr. Wonka, who was sitting on Charlie's other side, reached down into the bottom of the boat, picked up a large mug, and dipped it into the river filled with chocolate, and handed it to Charlie. Drink this, he said. It'll do you good. You look starved to death. Then Mr. Wonka filled a second mug and gave it to Grandpa Joe. You too, he said. You look like a skeleton. What's the matter? Hasn't there been anything to eat in your house lately? A picture of the big boat that they're sailing down the river on. Not much, said Grandpa Joe. Charlie put his mug to his lips, and the rich, warm, creamy chocolate ran down his throat into his empty tummy. His whole body from head to toe began to tingle with pleasure, and a feeling of intense happiness spread over him. You like it? Asked Mr. Wonka. Oh, it's wonderful, Charlie said. The creamiest, loveliest chocolate I've ever tasted, said Grandpa Joe, smacking his lips. That's because it's been mixed by waterfall, said Mr. Wonka. The boat sped on down the river. The river was getting narrower. There was some kind of dark tunnel ahead, a great round tunnel that looked like an enormous pipe, and the river was running right into the tunnel, and so was the boat. Row on, shouted Mr. Wonka, jumping up and waving his stick. Full speed ahead! And with the Oompa Loompas rowing faster than ever, the boat shot into the pitch-dark tunnel, and all the passengers screamed with excitement. How can they see where they're going? Shrieked Violet Beauregard in the darkness. There's no knowing where they're going, cried Mr. Wonka, hooting with laughter. There's no earthly way of knowing which direction they are going. There's no knowing where they're rowing or which way the river's flowing. Not a speck of light is showing, so the danger must be growing, for the rowers keep on rowing, and they're certainly not showing any signs that they're slowing. He's gone off his rocker, shouted one of the fathers aghast, and the other parents joined in a chorus, shouting. He's crazy, they shouted. He's balmy, he's nutty, he's screwy, he's batty, he's dippy, he's dotty, he's daffy, he's goofy, he's beany, he's buggy, he's wacky, he's loony. No, he is not, said Grandpa Joe. Switch on the lights, shouted Mr. Wonka, and then suddenly, on came the lights, and the whole tunnel was brilliantly lit up, and Charlie could see that they were indeed inside a gigantic pipe, and the great upward curving walls of the pipe were pure white and spotlessly clean. The river of chocolate was flowing very fast inside the pipe, and the Oompa Loompas were all rowing like crazy, and the boat was rocketing along at a furious pace. Mr. Wonka was jumping up and down in the back of the boat and calling to the rowers to row faster and faster still. He seemed to love the sensation of whizzing through the white tunnel in a pink boat on a chocolate river, and he clapped his hands and he laughed and he kept glancing at his passengers to see if they were enjoying it as much as he was. Look, Grandpa, cried Charlie. There's a door on the wall. It was a green door, and it was set into the wall of the tunnel just above the level of the river. And as they flashed past it, there was just enough time to read the writing on the door. Storeroom number 54, it said. All the creams, dairy cream, whipped cream, violet cream, coffee cream, pineapple cream, vanilla cream, and hair cream. Hair cream, cried Mike TV. You don't use hair cream. Row on, shouted Mr. Wonka. There's no time to answer silly questions. They streaked past a black door, store number 71. It said on it, whips, all shapes and sizes. Whips, cried Veruca. What on earth do you use whips for? For whipping cream, of course, said Mr. Wonka. How can you whip cream without whips? Whipped cream isn't whipped cream at all unless it's been whipped with whips, just as a poached egg isn't a poached egg unless it's been stolen from the woods in the dead of the night. Row on, please. They passed a yellow door on which it said storeroom number 77. All the beans, cocoa beans, coffee beans, jelly beans, and has-beans. Has-beans? Cried Violet Beauregard. You're one yourself, said Mr. Wonka. There's no time for arguing. Press on, press on. But 5 seconds later, when a bright red door came into sight ahead, he suddenly waved his gold-topped cane in the air and shouted, "Stop the boat!" And that is the end of chapter 18. They are coming to a new room in the Great Chocolate River called the Inventing Room. And that is chapter number 19. We're going to learn about everlasting gobstoppers and hair toffee. Thanks for listening, friends. We'll see you next time.